This is an urgent alert for California. They have hacked in. I repeat, they have hacked into California's emergency services 911. Yes, California is under a cybersecurity attack. We're going to break it down in this video. We know that this is Iran. We know that they are sabotaging America, but they're not doing it all at once. Iran is drawing this thing out to be psychological warfare for the American people. There are certain systems that you never think about until you actually need them. You don't wake up wondering if 911 is functioning. You don't drive past a fire station wondering whether its dispatch computers are even connected. You don't put your children to bed thinking about whether the digital infrastructure inside of California connecting your home to the police, to the firefighters, to the paramedics will still be there at 2:17 a.m. in the morning. But nowadays, maybe you should. You just assume these things work. You assume somebody's going to answer. You assume the machine behind modern technology is humming quietly in the background. Our great trust in the American empire, the American flag, the systems that we have had put in place as Americans since we were born, until the screen goes dark. And right now, a city in Northern California is dealing with exactly this type of nightmare because, contrary to popular belief, it's not okay when emergency services go down in America. See, in America, unalivings happen all the time. Rampages, accidents, car accidents, people, all types of different things happen. Now, I happen to live in Mauritius, Africa, and you just barely hear the paramedics, right? But I remember in the US when I lived there, you would always hear an ambulance. We would always hear it, whether it's somebody that had been unalived by some type of weaponry, some type of assault took place, some type of fire, some type of this. It was like there's always something. And when that system goes down, there are people in this Northern California city that are going to need 911 services. Get this, Suisun, Suisun City declared a local state of emergency after malicious software disrupted its computer network, affecting their 911 calls, rerouting police, fire dispatch, and other critical municipal systems, according to reporting from the CBS Sacramento. Listen to that again, please. Let's run that back. Not somebody's Instagram account, not a streaming service like Netflix has been banned, not a website temporarily going offline or a bank got hacked. 911, critical infrastructure that's needed if somebody is in need of a dire help in a dire situation. The invisible digital nervous system connecting people in distress to the people tasked with saving them in the United States. And that's why this story matters far beyond California, because the new emergency does not need smoke. And for everybody that comes on this channel and they're like, well, this only is going to happen all over the world. It's not only going to be America. Ma'am, sir, do you see that this is only affecting America right now? Do you see that this issue is affecting right now Northern California, which is in the United States of America, and is going to come to a city near you soon? It could come to Columbus, Ohio, my hometown, Tallahassee, Florida, Dallas, Texas. If Iran decides tomorrow that they want to hack in to some municipality city in Oregon, then guess what? They're going to do it, and it's not going to impact people in South Africa. It's not going to impact people in Ghana. It's not going to impact people in Mauritius. It's not going to impact people in Thailand or Singapore or the Philippines. It's going to impact Americans because the war that Iran has is specifically with Americans in America. And this is why we tell people, flee America while you can. Because can you imagine these cyber attacks happening and ramping up across the board over the next 6 to 9 months if they can hack into these things so easily? Because don't forget, they hacked into the water supply systems of 8 different states, and they were reluctant to tell you about that. And so I just wonder what else is happening behind the scenes that the American government and the local governments do not want to tell the American people about, because it makes us look weak. It makes us look like we're not top dog in charge. It makes us look like we're not as strong, because at the end of the day, Mystery Babylon is not as strong, and her destruction has already been prophesied. This brings me to the Mature Adult Intensive. We did 2 recent interviews on our channel. You should go back and look at them on the Mauritius Africa playlist. Two recent interviews of expat retirees who left America with urgency. Why did they leave with urgency? Because they received a calling on high, could see the signs of the times, and said, you know what, this is not going to be good for America. You know, I better just get out of here while I still can, while airplanes are still actually flying outside of the United States. Because in an all-out war situation, because Iran has already expressed that they want to send missiles to America and are currently working on them. Crazy, right? In that type of situation, you're grounded. There's no getting out. If you wait too long, then it'll just be too late. There are seasons to everything that occurs in life. There's a season to plant. There's a season to build. There's a season to cry. There's a season to laugh. There's a season to leave America. And there's also a season where if you wait too long, you may get stuck. There is no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes says this. And it's telling you by the wisdom of King Solomon, you had better be in the right season, because there is urgency in the physical and in the spiritual realm. There is urgency when you have a World War III type of scenario. Why do you think all of these prior CIA military guys are coming out telling you, leave America? Something bad's coming. This is the thing that's letting you know, because they have to let you know what's going to happen before it truly happens, so that the people with wisdom and discernment can get out and not look back. These people are telling you now is the time to exit. The experts, the American white experts of European descent are telling you, if I were you, I would leave. Ray Dalio, a huge economist, is telling people, get out of the stock market, and you may even want to get out of America. You may just want to go somewhere else, because what America has coming, in his words, is 10 years of downturn, 10 years of famine, starting from 2026 to 2036. So it's not just people on YouTube or just the Black diaspora saying it. This is like economists, okay, coming out, prior people in the government coming out. Get ready, prepare for war, because the war is at your front door. You know what's crazy? The 21st century has brought about a new kind of emergency. You might not see anything at all. The traffic lights are still technically blinking. The grocery store is still open. Your neighbors are still walking their dogs and waving at you from across the street, or maybe not, because in America, people are kind of rude and kind of strange and bizarre. And your phone still has 5 bars, yet somewhere behind the walls, the infrastructure can be quietly bleeding out, and you won't necessarily feel it until it's too late to turn back. One malicious program gets inside a government network, and suddenly something as basic as routing an emergency becomes an impossibility. That's dystopian enough without even having to exaggerate it. Because the frightening part is not that California's northern cities suddenly collapsed. It didn't. The frightening part is realizing how much normal life in America depends upon these systems most citizens cannot see. And we have been told, again, historically, growing up in the United States, being an American, we're told that our systems are the best. Nobody can hack us. Nobody can do anything. But the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, pride comes before a fall. Because here's the thing about pride. When you're too prideful, you don't see the gaps. You don't see your weaknesses. When you're too prideful and lofty, sitting up on high, we are the greatest nation of all time, blah, 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 we cannot fail, even though every civilization falls, then you cease to see the gaps in your infrastructure. You cease to see the secret Iranians that are already in the government, because you just didn't want to put Black people in government. You didn't want to hire them in some of these top positions. You didn't want to put them inside of these corporations. You said, you know, they're too Black for that. Let's hire the Iranians. At least they have a similitude of whiteness. Well, that's coming back to bite you on your own head these days. Suisun City's own emergency planning documents recognize that major disasters can overwhelm local capabilities and are going to require outside assistance. They also acknowledge a fundamental weakness in security communications. No single warning system can rapidly reach everyone. The city's plans therefore contemplate multiple channels, including wireless alerts, radio, social media, and other systems. And that sentence should give you pause in a way that makes you think about preparedness. No one system reaches everybody, yet millions of us have organized our lives as though one device does. It's so crazy because cybersecurity sounds like a IT problem. It sounds like something far off that you and I don't even have to worry about. But that's not a fact. It's not just about passwords and antivirus software. Some poor employee getting an email at 3 p.m. saying, please reset your passport. No. Password, I should say. Not anymore. When digital infrastructure controls transportation, banking, hospitals, utilities, government records, emergency response, cybersecurity becomes physical world security. And this incident is another reminder of how fragile the US system is, how fragile our infrastructure is, how fragile it is to be an American inside of America under the time when it is collapsing. This means redundancy. It means knowing where your documents are. It means having copies that do not disappear because one old iCloud account becomes inaccessible. This is what we also go through in the Mature Adult Intensive for this reason. It does you no good to relocate, to invest, to do these things without having cybersecurity infrastructure for your own family, for your own legalities, for your own paperwork, for your own plan B, plan C, plan D exodus. You need to think more militarily because we are in wartime. We need military scenarios. We need to be thinking like people that are militant, not on the offense, but on the defense, having backups, having countries and places and regions that we understand, that we have networks in, that we know people in this area, we know people in that area. We know how to maneuver with our cybersecurity. We know how to bring this infrastructure into our self-employed business. We know how to bring this infrastructure into our retirement planning, into our family life. These are the times that we are in, and the age of AI is not going to slow these things down. It's going to increase it because on top of that, you have the rogue AIs at OpenAI and Anthropic that are hacking systems, and you just wonder how long is it till Iran gets access to those types of things. This also means knowing what country you could enter in circumstances that force you to move quickly. It means understanding visas before you desperately need one. It means having a second, third residency option outside of America so that you have the optionality that is necessary in these times. And this is the conversation we keep having. People sometimes hear us discussing global mobility and assume we're simply talking about travel. Well, we're not. We're thinking 10 to 15 years in advance because there's an enormous psychological difference between saying, I need to leave, where do I go? I want to invest in Africa, how do I get in the stock market? And saying, if circumstances change, these are my three options. One is panic. The other is preparation. And preparation does not mean believing every frightening headline on the internet. This is not what this is about. But we cannot prepare without awareness. Awareness is the first step of preparation. We both need to study the vulnerability that the real event exposed because Suisun City is one municipality. This incident does not mean California's statewide 911 infrastructure has collapsed, but a local government declaring a state of emergency due to malicious software disrupted critical systems should still get your attention. And it isn't because it's panic, it's because you should be thinking about building exit options before you need them. Because by the time you need them, you're going to be too scattered and too chaotic. All of this is exactly why we created the Mature Adult Intensive. For the mature adult who has spent decades and decades working, building a life in America, and knows that moving internationally is not something you improvise from an airport terminal. Over 4 weeks, we help you go through global mobility with structure, confidence, and human support. Your documents, your destination strategy, your financial strategy, your residency possibilities over the next 10 to 15 years, your practical questions, and even your fears, your doubts, some of the things that you're too afraid to say out loud that need to be hashed out before you ever hop on a plane. And the enormous question sitting underneath all of this is actually, if I decided to go, could I do it? You don't have to pack tomorrow. You don't have to live frightened. You don't have to interpret every emergency as the end of civilization either. But you should know your options. You should understand that the modern world is extraordinarily connected, and it can be a good and a bad thing. Sometimes that connectivity can be our greatest strength, but oftentimes it's a crack in the wall. Prepare while the systems are still working. Prepare before additional banks begin to collapse. Get your paperwork together while government offices are still open. Understand your options, your ability to acquire global mobility while you still have the luxury of choosing calmly and peaceably. The Mature Adult Intensive Group Program exists to help you do exactly that. Because when the screen suddenly says, system unavailable, alert, alert, then it's too late. And the people who truly have options in these times across various continents, different demographics, across their children, their nieces, nephews, these are the people who aren't beginning their research. They've already done it. And by this time, for you, if you're just now beginning the research, it may be too late. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video. This is crazy. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down below, because it's seeming like every day there's some kind of new hack in municipalities and local governments in the United States of America. How long before the big collapse happens at the hands of the Iran military?